We've been discussing some of last night's interview with James Comey on ABC News. Our next guest joining us once again here on the program. Glad to have her back. RNC spokeswoman Kayleigh McEnany on to talk about James Comey and the media love fest, Kayleigh, with James Comey and last night's ABC News interview. What was your reaction while you were watching all of this play out on ABC?
Oh, my reaction was that this is someone who has not a single iota of credibility, and anyone who's intellectually honest, anyone who likes facts, can gather that. I mean, just look at the long litany of lies and mistruths he told Congress by saying, I didn't decide whether to exonerate Hillary Clinton until after I interviewed her, when in fact he had drafted a memo before he even spoke with her. The fact that, he said he had never been an anonymous source, when in fact he had been an anonymous source, leaking those memos to his friend. The fact that he said that he didn't have parameters of Jeff Sessions' recusal, when in fact he was given those parameters in a document form that very day. I mean, this is someone who is on the record having misled Congress, and yet, for whatever reason, ABC decides to give him this glowing, flattering, flowery portrayal in his childhood home, and it just was very, very far from the truth about who Jim Comey is.
When I was watching this, and it was amazing some of the things that he would say that really garnered no pushback, and I'm not surprised by that from George Stephanopoulos. But the fact that he's almost being celebrated, that he reopened or wanted to announce the reopening of this investigation into the Hillary Clinton emails because he thought she was going to win. That to me sounds like, okay, you have an FBI director who is admitting that he is going by politics as to what he's going to do. That just seems wrong by itself.
Sure, absolutely. And you just mentioned yet another lie of Jim Comey, and that is, he initially said politics was not at all part of the calculation, when in fact we learn now that you're right. He thought Hillary was going to become president, and he thought it would undermine her presidency. And we learned that his daughters and wife were out at the Women's March, protesting the president and supporting Hillary Clinton. So, it reeks of partisanship, and it reeks of opportunism. One of the things that I noticed and was quite shocked by is, this is a former FBI director, someone who is in charge of protecting this country from criminal crime rings, that wreak havoc on his society, gangs like MS-13, and yet in his meetings with the president, he talks about observing his hands and observing his eyes and his tanning patterns and all of this. You're the sitting FBI director, and this is what you're doing during your meetings with the president, and then you're going to go out and say all this on national television? Just very bizarre.
Yeah, well, and I mean, he writes about it in his book, and I mean, this seems like, I remember the press, if you go back to the Republican primary and the press, they were having a heyday over, this is immature of Trump to talk about hand size and to talk about all of these other things. And then with Comey, it's praiseworthy, and the media says this is great. This is what we need more of from James Comey. Criticizing the length of the president's tie. This is big breaking news in James Comey's book. It just, to me, it really hurts the FBI overall, because this guy has been elevated. He was the former FBI director. This is supposed to be a prestigious job and a prestigious position, and he's hurting that position and the FBI's credibility overall, in my opinion.
He is, and by writing this tell-all, no other FBI director has done anything like this. And Jonathan Turley, an esteemed attorney, came out and said this just, isn't what you do. People who write tell-alls, most of us don't think fondly of to begin with, to go out and bash the person you once worked for. But to do it in this manner and have a big publicity tour, charging $100 a person to come into your book signing, this is about look at me, and garnering wealth, fame, and fortune. And, it's just really beneath the dignity of the office that he once held. And, President Trump, one of the best decisions he made, I think, was letting him go.
Visiting with Kayleigh McEnany, RNC spokeswoman. Kayleigh, y'all have a new website, the RNC does, lioncomey.com. I love the name of it, by the way. lioncomey.com. Tell folks about this website.
Yeah, that's right. You can go on it, and I listed, starting out in the interview, a few of the mistruths that Comey's been caught in, and this website meticulously lays that out. So if you want the facts, the ones that you won't hear much of on the mainstream media, you can go here, and, you know, it gives dates, timestamps for when these things were said and when they were contradicted. And it's really important when we're assessing someone who is saying such egregious things about the president that we assess their own credibility, and lyingcomey.com does a pretty good job at telling you exactly how credible James Comey is, and that's zero.
Obviously, the White House is going to be firing back at some parts of this book and some of the things that Comey has to say. The RNC, I mean, just immediately took this on. What's one of the reasons why the RNC really got out in front of this so publicly?
Well, I think, you know, our role at the RNC, in addition to getting Republicans elected, you know, statewide, nationwide, a big part of that is sharing the president's positive agenda, which we do on a daily basis, but also providing him and our party cover when they come under attack. You know, there's no secret the mainstream media is biased against Republicans. They have been for a long time. But while other Republican presidents have just kind of sat back and taken, you know, the lobs of unfair criticism being thrown at them, you know, our party has decided it's time to fight back. You know, the nation elected a fighter when they elected Donald Trump, and it's our responsibility to share, you know, the counter narrative to what Jim Comey is out there saying.
When there was a poll that was done, I believe it was released over the weekend, Washington Post ABC News poll. It had to be, you know, you had to like it over at the RNC because it showed in this generic balloting that the Democratic advantage is falling in the congressional generic ballots. What do you attribute that to?
Well, the economy, no doubt about it. I mean, people have not been told about the great benefits of tax cuts. If they've been told about it, it was on Fox or on radio. It's not often you hear about it on CNN or MSNBC or elsewhere. But people feel this economic reality in their lives. They see their paychecks grow. They're seeing wages go up. They're seeing more access to the job market. It's something that as much as the media wants to talk, they can't change the economic prosperity happening in each and every American's life. So I think that really is helping us and will help us as we go into November, no doubt.
Kayleigh, as always, appreciate your time today, and I'm sure we'll visit again.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Have a good one. That's Kayleigh McEnany with the RNC Chad Hasty Show, KFYO.